choose other. Free, I choose and disappear. The authority of the Spiritist doctrine, universal test of the Spirit's teachings. If the Spiritist doctrine were a purely human concept, it would have as a guarantee only the enlightenment of the one who have conceived it. Now, no one in this world would make the ill-founded claim of possessing the absolute truth by him or herself. If the spirits who have revealed it had manifested to only one person, nothing would guarantee its origin. For it would be necessary to believe the word of whoever stated that he or she had received their teachings. Admitting perfect sincerity on his or her part would at most convince a circle of acquaintances. He or she might have followers, but would never succeed in railing everyone. This occurred in certain religion that I was one time. And people that believe in this religion was so hard. One time, one of those that participated of this religion make sex with a woman and let her with a baby without his marriage. This religion that this man worked in his works, because they had a library, this man would put out of his work waiting a baby. Oh no, he married more late with her. He assumed the situation, but it's not sufficient to this religion. No, he committed a sin. He don't mercy work in this work and left him without money to take care of his son. What is this? You can think about it. God willed for the new revelation to reach humankind through the quickest and most authentic way possible. Quickest and most authentic way. That is why God has entrusted the spirits with taking it from one pole to the other and manifesting themselves everywhere without giving anyone the exclusive privilege of hearing their world. They don't have privilege to no one in those epochs of Kardec. One person may be deceived or may even deceive him or herself, but that will not happen when millions see and hear the same thing. Millions. It's a guarantee for each and for all. Furthermore, one individual can be made to disappear, but multitudes cannot be. Books can be burned. How was burned in Spain in those epochs? This land burned books from Kardec. If all the books were burned, the source of the doctrine would not be any less inexhaustible, for the very reason that is not of the earth. It's not of this planet. It has appeared everywhere. Imagine this. 1860 more or less. This year, 1860, 1860. It has appeared everywhere, and thus everyone can partake of it. In the absence of individuals to spread it, there will always be the spirits who reach everyone and no one can reach. Thus, in reality, the spirits themselves are the ones who do the disseminating with the help of innumerable mediums, innumerable mediums whom they are arousing everywhere. If there were but one interpreter, no matter how favored he or she might be, Spiritism would barely be known. Such an interpreter, whatever social class he or she belonged to, would have been the object of prejudice on the part of many. Not every nation would have accepted him or her, whereas the spirits communicating everywhere to all people. See this? Marvelous. To all sects and to all parties have been accepted by all. Spiritism has not nationality. It lies outside all particular creeds and has not been imposed by any class of society. Since any person may receive instruction from his or her relatives and friends from beyond the grave, it has to be this way so that it could call all humankind to fraternity. If it had not placed itself on neutral ground, it would have maintained the dissensions instead of placating them. This universality in the Spirit's teaching is what comprises Spiritism's power, and it's also the cause of its rapid spread. While the voice of one single individual, even with the help of the press, would require centuries to reach everyone, thousands of voices are making themselves heard simultaneously at all points of the earth. Is emotional, great emotion to read this and imagine this. At all points of the earth, proclaiming the same principles and transmitting them to God. The most unlearned and the most learned, so that no one may be disinherited. This is an advantage to none of the doctrines that have appeared until today have enjoyed it. If therefore Spiritism is a threat, it will fear neither the ill will of woman's moral revolutions, not the physical disturbance of the globe, because none of these things can affect the spirits. Spirits can be that. However, this is not the sole advantage resulting from such an exceptional position. Spiritism finds in it a powerful guarantee against all schisms that might arise, whether from the ambition of a few or whether from the contradiction of certain spirits. Such contradictions are surely an obstacle. but one that characterizes the medication alongside the malady. It's now that, as a consequence of the differences that exist in their capabilities, spirits are far from being in possession of the whole truth individually. That is not given to all to grasp certain mysteries, that their knowledge is proportional to their purification, that ordinary spirits don't know any more than humans, and even less than some. Then amongst them, as among the later, there are presumptuous and pseudo-learned spirits who think they know what they in fact do not, and terrorizers who take their own ideas for the truth. See the mention work made by high spirits and God. Because when the truth have the moment to appear, God make this. Who take their own ideas for the truth. In short, that spirits of the highest order, those who are completely dematerialized, are the only ones divested of earthly ideas and prejudices. However, it is also known that deceitful spirits have no scruples in cloaking themselves with names they have borrowed in order to render their utopian ideas acceptable. The result is that for everything that is outside exclusively moral teaching, the revelations that each one may obtain will have an individual character lacking authenticity. That such revelations must be considered as the personal opinions of this or that spirit, and that it would be imprudent to accept them or doubtlessly promulgate them as absolute truths. See the example of this religion that one person received, one person only, and make this with a father of a son, let them without work. Only he don't marriage by the laws of humans. But after he made this and go never more wanted know about his religion, of course. In the hour of much necessity he had, they abandoned them. Is this from God? Really? I think no. I don't say about the fundamentals of religion, but the interpretation of the community, wrong interpretation of wills of God. That such revelations must be considered as the personal opinions of this or that spirit, and that it would be imprudent to accept them or doubtlessly promulgate them as absolute truths. At first, test is undoubtedly then of a reason, to which it is necessary to submit without exception everything that comes from the spirits. Take care. Any theory is obvious contradiction to common sense, strict logic, and the hard evidence that one possesses in spite of any respectable name that may have signed the communications must be rejected. However, this test is incomplete in many cases due to the insufficiency of the knowledge of certain persons and the tendency of many to take their own judgment to be the sole arbiter of the truth. In such a case, what do those who don't have absolute faith in themselves do? They take the advice of the greatest number and the opinion of the majority as their guide. See the logic. Thus, it should be with respect to the teachings of spirits who themselves furnish us the means. Was a work of genius in the spiritual world. Concordance among spirits' teachings is therefore the best test. Concordance among the spirits' teachings is therefore the best test. Not one, I said the truth. Isn't this way? Wasn't this way. With Kardec? No. But it's further necessary for such concordance to occur under certain conditions. The least secure of all is when the medium, him or herself, questions several spirits about a point in doubt. It is quite obvious that if the medium is under the control of an obsession, or it's dealing with a deceitful spirit, then this spirit may tell the medium the same thing using different names. Not in one person, the same spirit can make wrong and engage medium with different names saying the same thing. One medium only can be make powerful. Then the spirit may tell the medium the same thing using different names. Nor is there any sufficient guarantee in the conformity that may be obtained through mediums of one particular spirit center, because they may be suffering the same influence. The only true guarantee for spirit's teachings is in the overall agreement amongst revelations made spontaneously to a large number of mediums unknown to one another and in several places. Because these books that I received, until now, I don't have certain. I say to you because I think so logical information. I read, but I have doubts. Until a day other persons that don't know me say the same. One must understand that we are not here dealing with communications of secondary interest, but with those related to the very principles of the doctrine. Experience has shown that when a new principle is not being revealed, it's taught spontaneously in different places at the same time in an identical manner. See the history, human history. If not as to form, at least as to essence. Thus, if it pleases a spirit to formulate an eccentric theory based on its own ideas and outside the truth, one may be sure that such a theory will remain circumscribed and will fall before the humanity of instructions given everywhere else. We have already had many examples of this. It's this unanimity that has caused the fall of all the partial theories that appeared at the beginning of Spiritism. When each person explained the phenomena in his or her own, imagine the crazy epoch, in his or her own way, and before the laws that govern the relations between the visible and invisible world were understood. Such is the basis upon which we support ourselves when formulating a principle of the doctrine. It's not because it's in agreement or with our ideas that we present it as true. We in no way set ourselves up as the supreme arbiter of the truth, nor do we say to anyone, Kardec was a scientist. Scientists never consider her, how honor him, her or him, our supreme knowledge of the truth. Never a scientist make this. In agreement with our own ideas that we present is true, we in no way set outside ourselves up as the supreme arbiter of the truth, nor do we say to anyone, believe in such a matter because we tell you to. Our opinion is nothing in our own eyes except a personal one that might be correct or erroneous. For we are no more infallible than anyone else. It's not because a principle has been taught to us that it is the truth, but because it has received the sanction of concordance of millions. In our possessions, thousand authentic spirit centers scattered over diverse points of the globe. We are also in a position to observe the principles upon which this concordance is established. It's this observation that has guided us up to this day, and it's also that which will guide us in the new areas that Spiritism has been called to explore. It's thus that carefully studying the communication received from various places in the world, but from France and abroad, we have recognized by the very special nature of the revelations that there has been a tendency to enter upon a new path, and that the time has come to take a step forward. This revelation, at times made with veiled words, have frequently gone unperceived by many of those who have received them. Many others understand. He was in the top of mountain, and people, each other, was seeing what he, Kardec, was seeing. Perceive. He was called to observe a multitude, in concordance or not, to revealed aspects. He was only a greater organizer of all this. God bless Kardec, a scientist that go out of his path from a scientist, teacher and writer from biology, physics, mathematics, and chemistry, and analyze all this. God bless Kardec. ever. These revelations, at times made with veiled words, have frequently gone unperceived by many of those who have received them. Many others believe that are the only ones who have received them. Taken in isolation, they would have no value to us. See the importance of the scientists. Only coincidence confers authenticity upon them. How in various epochs in humanity, contemporary world now, medium age, is this? A scientist in those epochs observed the movement. Was this Kardec made? Only coincidence confers authenticity upon them. Later, when the time comes to give them to the light of publicity, each person will then remember having received teachings with the same meaning. This is the general movement. Then all mediums recognize it, or each other's. This is the general movement which we have observed, which we have studied with the assistance of our spirit guides, and which has helped judge the appropriateness of doing something or abstaining from it. It was a complex work, so complex, because have so much layers in the middle of this. Is a separation so hard to make. This universal test is a guarantee for the future unity of Spiritism, and will annul all contradictory theories. It's in this universal test that in the future the criterion for truth will be sought. What determined the success of the doctrine formulated in the Spirit's book and in the Medium's book was that everywhere individuals were able to receive confirmation directly from the spirits as to what those books contain. If the spirits were to come from all sides to contradict them, then after some time their two books would have suffered the same fate of all other delusional conceptions. The support of the press itself would not have saved them from shipwreck, whereas deprived of such support, they have spread happily, nonetheless, because they have had the support of the spirits. Those goodwill has greatly compensated for the ill will of men and women. Thus it will be with all ideas that emanate from the spirits or humans, and which cannot bear up under this rest, whose power is incontestable. Let me see how much is so great information. But I read so a bit and will finish, but continue these ideas. This proved that was a collection of a new humanity, a millions people in those times. Is not a beat movement in a beat place, no. Isn't this way. more. In our position, having received communications, all these things is important to say you. Experience has shown that when a new principle is to be revealed, it's done spontaneously, how in the history of humankind, in different places at the same time in an identical manner, if not as to form, at least as to essence. Thus, if it pleases a spirit not to formulate an eccentric theory based on its own ideas and outside the truth, one may be sure that such a theory will remain circumscribed and will fall before the humanity of instructions given everywhere else. We have already had many examples of this. In this unanimity that has caused the fall of all the partial theories that appeared at the beginning of Spiritism, when each person explained the phenomena in his or her own way, and before the laws that govern the relations between the visible and invisible words were understood. Such is the base upon which we support ourselves when formulating a principle of the doctrine. It's not because it's in agreement with our own ideas that we presented it as true. We in no way set ourselves up as the supreme arbiter of the truth, nor do we say to anyone, believe in such matter because we tell you to. Our opinion is nothing in our own eyes except a personal one that might be correct or erroneous, for we are no more infallible than anyone else. It's not because a principle has been taught to us that it is the truth, but because it has received the sanction of concordance of millions. In our position of having received communications from close to 1,000 authentic spiritist centers, 1,000 authentic spiritist centers scattered over the various points of the globe. We are also in a position to observe the principles upon which this concordance is established. It's this observation that has guided us. Kardec was polyglot, guided us up to this day, and it's also that which will guide us in the new areas that Spiritism has been called to explore. It's thus that carefully studying the communications received from various places, but from friends and abroad, we have recognized by the very special nature of the relations that there has been a tendency to enter upon a new path, and that the time has come to take a step forward. These revelations, at times made with veiled words, have frequently gone unperceived by many of those who have received them. Many others believe them are the only ones to have received them. Observe this. Taken in isolation, they would have no value to us. Only coincidence confers authenticity upon them. Later then, when the time comes to give them to the light of publicity. Each person sees this movement when the time comes to give them to the light of publicity, each person will then remember having received teachings with the same meaning. This is the general movement which we observed, which we have studied with the assistance of our spirit guides, and which has helped to judge the appropriateness of doing something or obtaining from it. This universal test is a guarantee for the future unity of Spiritism and will end all contradictory theories. It's in this universal test that in the future the criterion for truth will be sought. What determined the success of the doctrine formulated in the Spirit's book and in the Medium's book was that everywhere individuals were able to receive confirmation directly from the spirits as to what those books contain. If the spirits were to come from outsiders, all sides, to contradict them, then after some time, these two books would have suffered the same fate as all other delusional conceptions. The support of the press itself would not have saved them from shipwreck. Weariness, deprived of such support, they have spread happily, nonetheless, because they have had the support of the spirits, whose goodwill has greatly compensated for the ill will of men and women. Thus is it will to be with all ideas that emanate from spirits of humans and which cannot bear up under this test, whose power is incontestable. Therefore, let us suppose that it pleases certain spirits to take the book under some tide, a book with a contrary meaning. Let us further suppose that which hostile intent and the purpose of discrediting the doctrine, apocryphal communications were malevolently instigated. What influence could these writings have if they were disproved at every point by the spirits? It's the acquiescence of the latter that one would need to be assured of before publishing a theory in their name. From the theory of one sole individual to a theory of many, there is the distance from a single unit to the infinite. What influence could all the arguments of the detractors have on the opinion of the masses? When millions of friendly voices from the space have come into every corner of the world, even into family homes, to forcefully rebuff them, from this aspect, has not experience already confirmed the theory? What has become of all those publications that responsibly should have whipped out spiritism? Which of them has been able so far to restrain its forward progress? Until now, the matter has not been considered from this point of view. Unquestionably, one of the most serious each person has counted of him or herself alone, without counting of the spirits. Counting on the spirits. The principle of concordance is, moreover, a guarantee against any alterations that may be inflicted on the spiritism by sects that would like to appropriate it to their own advantage and accommodate it to their own means. Anyone who might try to divert it from a providential objective would fail for the simple reason that the spirits, through the universality of their teaching, so fantastic, will cause any modification that departs from the truth to fall. When God wants new knowledge come to this planet, this happens. Because will come to universality. This we are in those epochs with those development in science and technology. All this is from God. The knowledge, universal knowledge, universal concordance, biological dots. And this, I recommend you read the entire text. Is this introduction in gospel book. The gospel from spiritism is the introduction, and I read only a part. Discontinue this item named item 2, the authority of the spiritist doctrine, universal test of the spirit's teaching. How he said, 1,000 of spiritual centers in various parts of the world he observed it. And each other, they don't know what was happening. Only Kardec, with help to his guide, can observe a totality of this movement. How other genius in various ages of development of human in this planet saw Aristotle, Socrates, and Leonardo, how the name? The most great genius that made Mona Lisa. Now I have a white in my head. And Sartre and Pascal and some saints that write books, philosophers, all of them determined time made Vincent van Gogh in arts. All this genius, let me see the name of them, in various epochs, really wood can see the movement in those epochs, and cause this, they organize it with his own way, the development Mysterious. Leonardo da Vinci. More late. Uh, various forms of arts, name it, how the painters, all of this have influence and have eyes to see how these movements in those epochs happen. And to Kardec, he was how is his name in English? I don't know. In Portuguese, Kardec was organizer, but have other name, because he have still in mind, scientific mind. He was disciple from Pestalozzi. Then he had a great capacity to transform all this the didactic form. This made people so fast absorb this knowledge. Then I hope you search this test, entire test, because I only read a bit. Introduction, the objective, item 2, the authority of the Spiritist doctrine, universal test of the Spirit's teaching. And then I desire to you, I will read the rest more late. And I desire you a great final week and a great final weekend, because this is Saturday. Until the next, thank you, your presence.